Welcome, welcome to another Uncomplicating Business in this series of trust where we are talking to, I know I keep telling you they're my favorite people, but they are. And these interviews have been such a treat, and the feedback has been so fun, and so many interesting things have been coming out of them. And there's a whole series of like practical application episodes coming behind these. So keep on it, people. Today I have the most wonderful Angela Greaser, who is the other half of Stand for the And, but like, guys, you need both of them because they're both so freaking smart. It just kills me. Angela, I'm going to read some of her bio, but I'm not going to use all her words because y'all know that I don't follow directions well. Angela does all things growth. She helps the business owners and the teams scale through smart strategies, through looking at their data, and not in a way that is like beating you over the head with your data, but with a way that is like, hey, look, you have data. Maybe you would like to use it. She is all about scalability, but in a really grounded way. And as a former teacher like you and I, she knows all the instructional design things, but she's got all the messaging and the operations on the other side of it because she is the co-founder of Stand for the End with Melissa Camilleri, who we talked to a couple weeks ago, and also the COO of a business called All the Ops that she co-founded with her husband. So it's like operational support and strategy and all these things. And she's like nodding along. Man, there is literally no answer Angela doesn't have when I am like, hey, what do I do about? She's the first person I'm like, Angela, hey, what do I do about? And she also lives in my very favorite place in Maine. She is also a founder of the Prosper Network, which is the best networking around, my friends. She just helps us all do the things we want to do without making ourselves crazy really well. So that was a lot of words. Hi, Ange.
Hey, I'm
How are you?
so excited to have this excuse just to hang out
I
a
know.
while.
So I really truly these conversations are like, who do I want to spend some time with? And how do I have to schedule myself to make that happen?
Yeah.
Amen. So we are talking about trust. I gave you a little bit of pre-information, but not a lot. So what I've been starting with everyone is what does trust mean to you and your business today, right now? And how do you define it? Like, what is trust in your world? What does it look like?
It's interesting because I don't know if you intended this series to be like this, but I felt like there was a lot of excavating that I had to do to really dial down some of what I feel like are my core values. And I think when it comes to business and to life, it's the trust really to me means everything is going to be okay.
Mm,
Every problem has a solution, and every situation on the other end is going to, I'm going to be okay. Business is
hmm
going to be okay. And that has really shaped, I think, the way that I work with clients, the way that I interact with my family, the way that I just go about my day to day is that deep trust that it's going to be okay. And there will be a next step, no matter if it's the highest of the high or the lowest of the low. Trust is just that unshakable knowing. It's not even
mm.
a belief, it's a knowing.
It's like a capital K knowing. My friend
It
Stacey
really
Andon
is.
talks about it that way. It's like that capital K knowing. It's like
Mhm.
an inside knowing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's where I think that the concept of labeling that as trust,
Mm.
I don't know that it even hit me until I was reading through the questions that you had sent over to kind of think about as we were going into this talk. Because that, for me, it has always been just that inner knowing of, hey, it's going to be okay. There is going to be a solution, and I think that it does go deeper to the thought that not only is there a solution, but I am able to find that solution. Like I trust that nobody is the secret keeper
Mm.
of the things I need to be successful or the things I need to turn around this situation that I can make that happen and having that deep trust that no matter what that outcome is, who I am and how I show up for myself and who I know myself to be as a person, not just as a business person, not just as a mom and a wife and all the things that we are, but who I am, that stays the same.
Yeah. Well, and so it's interesting because I think that's a really simple and deep way to think about it. And also, what it makes me think about is one of the things I think a lot about over the years, or have thought a lot about, is the difference between it is all right and it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And so, like, the idea to me, I always end up at like, it's all right. It's always all right. It's always okay. And that's that capital K knowing that, like, it's all right because the solution's on its way. It sort of
Yeah.
feels a little different to me sometimes
Hmm.
because it's like it's not out there somewhere for me to find it. It's here. And if it's not here right the second, it's on its way and everything's
Mm.
fine. But it is that, like, we're okay.
Yeah.
We've always figured it out. We always will. Therefore, we are okay right now. And I
Yeah.
love that. And
Yeah.
it is hard. It's interesting how often I think we logically know that and we don't emotionally know it.
It's our brains are connected because that's literally that's where my brain, as you're saying this, I'm like, yeah. And sometimes it feels like it's not all right.
Hmm.
And I have the deep trust in myself and my own discernment that I can differentiate between what's a feeling and what's a fact. Or at least I can verbalize that I don't know if it's a feeling or a fact and
Yeah.
recognize that there is a difference because there are so many times where things don't feel all right and it doesn't feel okay. But you're so right. It doesn't mean that it's not okay. And
Yeah.
developing that understanding of the differences is so, like you said, it's so deep, but it's so true. And I think it's that grounding principle that,
Yeah.
we're gonna feel emotions and they're gonna bring us high and they're gonna bring us real low. But when we're aware of that and we can have that self-talk or have friends and people that we can bounce all of the emotions off of, it helps us keep going and helps us not get mired in that what does feel like a deep distrust of life and the world and all of that, I think it's easy to fall into that trap of the it's not fair and it's not this and the world is against me and when
Yeah.
hard things happen. But that's where that deep capital K knowing really comes into play.
Well, and it's an interesting, like I think you and I are similar in the practicality reflex that we both have,
We
which is
do.
all right, well, and that's teachers, I think also, which is like, cool, that thing exploded. Welp, we're gonna have to pick up and do the next thing because there are faces staring at us and people that need things done. So it is very like I am not by nature kind of like a dweller, a wallower, sometimes to my own detriment, actually. But at the same time, there is something in that practicality and in that sort of acceptance that, like, I know this is going to be what it is. If I was, the thing I ask myself all the time is if I trusted this, what would I be doing?
Mm.
And a lot of times it would be like, I would just be moving on. I would be like,
Yeah.
I would be doing none of this
Yep.
thinking right here. And you're like, oh, shoot. So it sounds like there is this sort of core knowing, right,
Mm.
that you carry and you maybe have learned to identify better over time. But talk to me about like learning to listen to that.
Mm.
Because actually, I think that's really hard for people because we are socialized not to
Yeah.
in every way in school, in business, at home. Like we are told that we have to have evidence
Hmm.
and trust is belief before evidence.
Yeah.
And in so many ways, it's pre-belief. And then it's like,
Hmm.
oh no, this
Yeah.
sucks. And so, what is the learning for you? What has that looked like? And has it been different for you as a human than it has for you as a business owner?
That's a really good question. And for me, it honestly goes back to childhood. And I don't think I ever did not have that knowing
Mm,
because I have been a person of faith since my childhood, and my faith has always been my own.
Hmm.
And where where I have always been grounded is in this identity that I have a creator and that he flippin' loves me and like everything's going to be okay even when it doesn't feel like it. And
Hmm.
that identity for me has never changed. And that does not mean by any stretch of the imagination that things have been easy and that really horrible, mindless things haven't happened in my
Yeah.
life. But it is that faith and that belief of who I am that
Mm.
has never changed. And it is kind of wild to me because I think we
Hmm.
all go through, and we all, I did in my own ways, but, we go through those times where we walk away from who we know ourselves to be
Hmm.
and who we've been created as on this planet. And I never did. With all of the things that would hit me and the things I tried and uh, I always just had this underneath, even when I had times where I doubted myself or my abilities or desperately wanted to fit in places or wanted
Yes.
people to see me. At the end of the day, I always have gone back to the belief, well, my creator sees me, so I'm good. Like
Well,
it's
and I
it's gonna
think
be
there
okay.
is something in there about no matter what people believe about this, like, one of my dearest friends from childhood will tell you that I have this like stubborn streak that like I don't know if it's belief or it's just this like core like, well, there's this line at which I'm gonna do which I'm gonna do which I'm gonna do. And when you've run into it, it just is like I'm
Yeah.
just not gonna do that. Like
Hmm.
there's this weird stubbornness that I think comes with that. That is very, I see it in my own kiddo now. Like she so desperately wants to fit in, but also refuses to do it on anyone else's terms,
Oh yeah.
which
Yep.
is not the easiest way to seventh grade, my friends. It really isn't. It is not the easiest way to 13. It is not the easiest way to teenage girl, but also she just refuses to
Yeah.
do it any other way. And I don't want to mess with that
Hmm.
because I want her to keep that.
Hmm.
And so, where have you had to lean into trust? Where are the places that you had to kind of be like, uh-oh.
When have I not, I think is the better question. If you were
Fair.
asking me, think about when you did not have to lean into trust, I'd be like, "Oh, I have two instances. Let me tell you about them in my life."
Yeah.
Because I do feel like there is that part of me that is the jump and then figure it out when you're in the air how you're going to land.
Yeah.
Like that is, and again, that goes back to identity and
Mhm.
it's going to be okay to have that confidence to leap and to do the things. And I'm definitely like you in that we're just like, no, we're going to push through. Like we're going to push through and we're going to get there. And, I think that because I did have and have had this really firm belief in who I am, I think growing and evolving into other versions of myself has been a challenge because when I've hit those places of trust, my trust has to evolve as my identity is evolving. So I talk about this all the time when Melissa and I started Stand for the and we started it as a purely service-based business. A purely service-based business, which was ironically helping people to step away from their service-based businesses. Because
Oh,
right? So for years and years and years, I'm working behind the scenes of businesses and really focusing on operations, growth strategy, marketing strategy, and all of that. So running these huge launches, like multi-million dollar launches, craziness, right? But it happened and it was amazing. And, it had so much traction. Learning as a former teacher, being in this new business space has been pretty awesome to see how
yeah.
smart teachers are and how
So smart.
we learn on the job and we
Yes.
we
Well, and you're used
we
to just being like, all right, well, we'll try
okay,
that next.
here we go. Sure. So anyway, so Melissa and I had started Stand for the and we are combining her expertise of that instructional design piece and my expertise of the marketing, launching, sales. And we are getting these high ticket retainers to come in underneath organizations, businesses, solopreneurs with a budget to hire us to be hands-on. And I'm doing the graphic design. I'm setting up their project management systems. I'm managing their teams. Melissa's writing the curriculum. It's all hands-on. We're completely enmeshed. It's completely service-based. And we reached a point where we're like, whoa, this is exhausting. It was kind of it, imagine that, the very thing that we're like,
Shocker.
hey, you
You
should
did it
have
really well,
sustainable
and then the
offers.
people wanted more, and you were like, "There's no more."
There's no more. There's no more. I mean, it was to say that we had honed in on something that was magic was that's like saying it quietly. Like the
Yeah,
fact that we
yeah.
were able to two former teachers with multiple children,
Littles
uh,
too.
they were little at
Small
the
people.
time. Yeah, I mean, we brought in six figures in 90 days. And
Yeah,
that's not ads, that's not anything except for high ticket retainers by word of mouth referrals from people who were thrilled with our
yeah.
work or
Yep.
recommending us to other people. It was fast, it was intense. And we were like, okay, this is not sustainable. This is a great kickstart, but it's not sustainable. So, what we did, which is what we always do for other people, was to take that core framework of what we were doing and create a program to
Yep.
serve people where we weren't the ones doing, we were teaching
Yep.
and we were facilitating and we were being that perspective, that accountability, and helping people do what we were on retainer for these, high ticket retainers. Amazing, right? Sounds great. Sounds ideal. Sounds like what we do, right? Should be a no-brainer. So we had our market, like we were ramping up. We finally got a website, I think. I don't even know if we had a website at that point, but we had like a landing page where we have this big marketing event. People are showing up, people from years and years who have we've been connected with, we're
Yeah.
like, fabulous. This is great. People care about what we're saying. Have this marketing event after like the day of the marketing event, of course, because I don't give it any time, day of the marketing event, and nobody's buying our program. Crickets. And by the end of that day, I no joke was hysterical. And I'm not talking in hyperbole. I'm talking like I'm catching
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
breath.
Right. But it's like, holy moly, we did this wrong. We did this wrong. We did
We
this wrong. We
did
did this
it,
wrong. We did
but
it
it
wrong.
wasn't. This is the only time in my life I can ever remember feeling like I didn't trust myself
Oh,
because I was bawling. It makes me emotional, even thinking of it now. But I was voice noting Melissa, and we probably still have it saved somewhere. And I was like, nobody wants to learn from me. They want me to do things for them.
mm,
And all of the things unpacked about my relationship as a mother and as a wife and as a business owner and all of the things just came pouring out of like, oh, people just want me to do things for them. They don't
yeah.
they
They
don't
don't
want
want
to
to hear from
listen.
me.
They
Yeah.
don't want to hear from me. And I was like, where the heck did this come from? Because I didn't know until I was pushed to that edge of like, you will always the belief that I had that I felt like came out at that time was you will always be a doer
Mm,
and you will always get results. You will always do good work and you will always be exhausted and you will always be taken advantage of. And people will never want to hear your voice. People will never they don't want to learn from you. You don't, all of the insecurities of you're not pretty enough.
oh
Your
my
voice is
God.
annoying. Like you
Yeah.
don't have the right image, you don't have the right house, the right office, the right headphone, like all of the
Right.
things that come
Yep.
out.
Yep. Oh my gosh. Yes.
And so then what happens?
Works. People
It
start buying it.
works. People start buying. And not only do people start buying, but almost immediately after they join and we start the work, people are getting results like
Yeah.
crazy. And people are giving us that feedback. And I was like, okay, so now I have to learn to trust this newer version of myself. That's not just a doer. And so that's where I feel like it's that growth in the application of how
Well,
I've trusted
yeah,
myself.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This makes me think about the other day I was talking to a client about, I think change happens in three ways, and we only think about two of them. When we're changing, you and Melissa went immediately to, we're going to change what we offer.
Hmm.
We're going to change how we go about offering it. But you didn't necessarily think about who you were becoming.
Hmm.
And those are the three kinds. It's like what you do, how you do it, and who you are when you're doing it.
Yeah.
And we forget the who we are part because like that just feels like an inside thing and we should figure it out. And that is the part where it's like, oh, hey, my entire insides are stretching into this new person. And it
Yeah.
feels really hard, like swimming through
Mm.
jello. And you have to relearn that trust, right? Every
Yeah.
time you change, you relearn it. And I'm sure as you then have changed the program, you have changed you.
Mhm.
And you've had to learn, I think it's like every time you sell a new thing, you have to trust that you know how to sell something different.
Yeah.
And that's just endless. And people are
It
like, ew, hate it.
it's endless. And I think I mean, this goes back to our favorite phrase, which is no hedging, right?
Oh,
It's
boo,
right.
boo.
Sorry. I know you love that, but that
Mhm.
is the ultimate expression of self-trust is when you don't hedge.
Yes,
Because when you truly trust in the offer that you're putting out, and not just the offer that you're putting out, but you trust that you are going to be able to deliver in what you say the offer is going to deliver, that's when you can really stop hedging. We just put out an offer this morning that is our highest ticket offer that we've put out, besides done for you services, our highest ticket
right.
offer. It's niching down on a very, very specific thing, which is monthly recurring revenue.
Yep.
Because a part of the teacher in us has always been like, we can help everybody. Like, no worries,
We've
guys,
said
we've
every
got
teacher
you.
every time because
Right?
that's what teachers have to do.
Exactly.
You
And
have
you
to
don't want to
accept all
leave people
comers.
behind.
Well,
Right.
and that's your job. They give you a list,
Right.
right? They give
Right.
you a random list of kids and you have to bring everybody on the boat, but that is
Yeah.
not business.
It's
Here's,
not.
before we leave this though, I want to come back just a second for the people that
Please.
are listening so that we can say it again. Did you hear her, my friends, when she said that the ultimate act of trust is not hedging?
Mm.
I know that she is telling me too. So, also, because I'm really good at, we just talked this morning, Angela and I, about there's a difference between I can help you and we can figure it out together. And so I hedge along with the best of them. I am like a black belt in hedging, quite honestly. And so this is an act of trust to say, here's what I have and here's how I help you.
Yeah.
And to know that that is true with your capital K knowing inside out, and know that no matter what they say or how they come to you, you are going to figure it out. That's the trust. Like,
Mm.
that's the magic. That's so, I just need to like double down there because you gotta like poke at people and also me. So,
Yeah, you look so pleased to be saying that.
ugh,
Blah.
um,
Gross.
totally what I'm working on right now. All the time, just
Yeah. Yeah.
constantly,
Yep.
just taking the hedging out.
Yeah.
It's like in 1 degree, 1% at a time.
But
So
I do think with this, the whole concept of growth and not hedging and being willing to rise in your self-trust and trusting yourself enough to talk about what you're doing,
yes,
this was a big step for us today because we are honing in on one specific thing. When we
yes,
know we can help people with probably everything. There's
yes.
really very little I haven't had my hands in when it comes to growing a business. There's very little I don't know about or have experience helping people with. But we really wanted to call this message of a very specific buyer very loudly, talking about monthly recurring revenue and
Yep.
taking 90 days for an intensive to just look at that, and we will help you get results. So that took a lot of self-trust for us
Yeah.
because as you know, when you work with us, we're like, all right, let's look at your goals. Let's look at the whole big picture. Let's look at all of this and see, we'll help you figure out your best path versus no, if this is what you want, come here and I trust and you trust that we will get this done in 90 days. That's a big shift. It's a big
Well, and
exercise of trust.
it's like running a bakery versus a donut store,
Totally. Yep.
right? I'm so glad that that worked out when I said that. Um, But it is sort of like a we bake all the good things versus
Mm,
we're making donuts. And you can
mhm.
come here and want a croissant, but that's not what we do.
Right.
Like we make donuts, and
Hmm.
that's the difference. It's like in
Yeah.
this case, what I'm selling you is donuts,
Hmm.
very specifically in this very specific way. Versus, yes, I know how to bake anything, but that doesn't mean that's what we're doing right now. And that
Hmm.
doesn't mean that's not what you're going to do forever. Who knows? In December, maybe you're selling croissants.
Right.
But like, let's try this thing now
Right.
and do this thing in this specific way that you know, because I think the other thing that you trust, that I think you and Melissa trust in sort of without talking about it enough, maybe, is that you trust that it's always like that the people that are coming to you are capable of the thing they're saying they're capable of.
Mm.
You trust the human on the other side
Yeah.
and you act in trust of them,
Yeah.
where it's like, here is this thing I see in you. When you come to me, you say, okay, this is going to be great. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. You don't think like, can they really do that?
Mm.
Like
Never.
you roll with both trust in yourself and your own abilities and trust in your people
Hmm.
in a way that is very specific, I think.
Yeah. And I think that's really important as a coach, as a strategist, as a consultant, is to have that mutual trust. But it's not just a matter of, oh, I trust you to be nice to me. I trust, it is emotions, but it's not just emotions.
Hmm.
It is very much that. I mean, Sarah, if you came to me and said, hey, I am going to start um, a chicken farm and it's going to make $1 million by the end of the week. And I wouldn't look at you and say, great, Sarah, go for it. Go sell your house and buy 1 million chickens and you're going to make $1 million by Friday.
This
I
week.
wouldn't tell you that.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous and extreme example, but there's too many coaches that erode trust because they're afraid to say no,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they won't. And that, as you know, there's very many times that we will say, hey, like we will support you and we will give you whatever we can to help you on this path. However, knowing you, knowing your business structure, knowing the audience that you have currently gathered, your quicker path to profit is going to be down this road, not this road.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to have that pushback in a very respectful, trustful way on both sides, because the
Yeah.
last thing I want is someone to be building me up in a direction that they don't really think that I can be successful in. I don't
Right.
need
Well,
that.
and I think, or that they haven't thought about me enough to know one way or the other.
Oh, oh,
Right? Because I
yes.
think that that happens sometimes. And I think those are the places where the trust is killed fastest, where
Yeah.
somebody is like, sure, I'll help you do that. Like I have a dear friend right now that has had somebody helping her on the back end with something. And the person who is helping her very clearly did not understand her before she took her on. And what she is asking her to do is very clearly outside of this other person's capabilities.
Mm,
And she is yet to say that out loud, even though there have been multiple opportunities. So it is very like, you didn't know to trust. You trusted without knowing almost. But
mm,
that's not really trust.
yeah.
That's just like greed or
Yeah.
something. Like it's
Yeah.
just like without integrity on some level. And
Oh, that's it.
it's been an interesting thing to watch her be like, why would she have said yes to
Hmm.
me? Right? Why did
Yeah.
she offer to take me on? And so
Hmm.
that's where like people then are like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it myself.
Yeah.
You're like, no,
Yep.
man.
And that's where
Nope.
there is the whole fake it till you make it
Mm.
mindset, which there's a part of that that is very, very real. That is very much like figure it out, like say yes and
Well, it's
figure it
the
out
leap
as you
and figure
go.
it out, right?
Exactly. But it is very different when you are positioning yourself as, oh, yeah, I know everything about XYZ, pay me $10,000, but then you get in and you don't actually know what you say you know. And that's not okay. That's
No.
not okay.
Well,
And
and
it's
it's
amazing to
like
me
if
how rampant
somebody
that is.
it's like if somebody tomorrow was like, "Hey, I need you to teach honors chemistry."
Mm,
I would be like, could I figure it out? Sure. Eventually. The
yeah.
first year would be kind of wonky. if we're all being honest. But if you called
Hmm.
me tomorrow and said, come and sit in this algebra class and take care of this,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even have to have thoughts first.
Yeah. Yep. And
So
that's something where so Dan and I in all the ops, we do a lot of like hiring, firing, we do interviews
yeah.
for companies and things like that. And that's something where there's a big difference between I ask you, hey, so how proficient are you in active campaign? And you say to me, "Oh yeah, I know Active Campaign. Absolutely. Like I've got this, not a problem." Or you saying, "I'm actually really good with MailerLite, so I'm familiar with email platforms in general, and I know I could get in there. I know I could learn it. It's not a problem." I would much rather hear that than hear someone building up, yes, you have experience. Just say no. Just say no,
Yes.
but that you are willing to learn. And that is fake it till
Yes.
you make it, not lie, take people's money,
Well,
and
and
then
that's
let
not
them
fake it
down.
though,
Yeah,
right? That's
exactly.
you're taking the faking out of there. And I know we all get like our impostery moments of like, can I actually do this? Like the echo in my brain is often, you're just a teacher.
Hmm.
But at the same time, like I'm just a teacher that's figured out a hell of a lot of things. So
Yeah.
like, hmm.
Your results
So
speak for themselves. That's where you can't deny that. It doesn't, I don't care if you are an MBA and you've worked in all of these corporations. If you can't get me results, I don't want to work with you. If you're a teacher, if you're a chicken farmer, whatever you are, and you're getting results, I want to learn from you.
yes. And people will be like, well, but what should my title be? I'm like, yeah, actually, nobody cares. Like,
And
nobody
we change it
cares.
every 5 seconds. Like
Right. Like, literally, no one cares.
no, no one
So,
cares.
what are you, Angela, working on right now with trust besides what you're growing into?
Hmm. I really think it's the trusting others thing. Because
Mhm.
when you do have such a deep trust in yourself, but you have to operate with people who don't have that same inner trust and that same um the same mindset of we're going to figure everything out. We're not going to throw our hands in the air when something is hard or we don't know the answer. That for me can be hard to navigate because I overcompensate for those people
Mhm.
who don't show up. And then what happens? I get resentful or I get burnt out. And I think that that is always figuring out a balancing act of how I can let go and trust people when they're on their own trust building journeys. And that's not a good pat answer, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, but I think everybody understands it,
Yeah.
right? I think that's a really important one because it's also like, it's always interesting to me because it's like not necessarily them not showing up, it's them in a place internally that they don't understand how to show up from.
Yes. Yes.
And it's like, how do I offer grace for that and room for growth and learning while also getting my shit done? Which is
Exactly.
sometimes a real fine line, right?
Mhm.
And that's, you know, do I trust, it's like, do I trust them to eventually get there?
Yeah.
Do I have time for them to eventually get there?
Yeah.
If I just let it roll, will they figure it out?
Hmm.
And that's the difference, honestly, between my firstborn and my secondborn.
Yeah.
Because kid one, in the middle of the night when she was a baby, if she made a noise, you didn't catch that noise, you were goner. She was then screaming forever. And kid two, in the middle of the night, if he made a noise, he made a noise.
Yeah.
But kid one had trained us that if there was one noise, there was going to be many, many more.
Yep. Yep.
And we had to learn to trust him differently than her
Yeah.
as babies. And this is the same kind of stuff where you're like, okay, well, what do they need and how long do they need it?
Mm.
And can I let them figure it out? Or is there going to be much screaming if I let them
Yeah.
go?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
hard because
It is.
you don't control other people.
Mm-mm. You don't, and by nature, I'm not a controlling person. People think that, especially like being in systems and operations, oh, you must be so type A. You must like, no,
Mm.
absolutely not. I am type anything but A, essentially. And I am very much about, I don't have any desire to control people. I don't at all. And at the same time, I almost said but. Did you see me almost
Yeah, I
say
did.
but?
I saw you fix that.
And simultaneously, I believe that everything can have a positive outcome, whether it's now or in the future. And so I get insanely frustrated when anybody's like, well, I just don't know what to do. Well, I'm just not going to do anything.
Well, it's that
Well,
victiminess that
that,
just, ugh, it
yes,
kills me.
yes,
But I
that is
do
hard.
think, there's that willingness to, as long as people are coming at it from a place of willingness, I'm on
Mm-hmm.
board,
Yes.
right? And I'm willing to trust the process as long as they're willing to roll into the process.
Mm-hmm.
It's always hard for me when somebody's like no to everything.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, but then you actually don't want to figure this out. So I don't know
Right.
that I trust that.
Right.
And I think what you said before is like, it's not, I think there's difference between wanting to control and problem solving.
Yes.
And you are
Absolutely.
a problem solver. And I think you probably have to watch yourself to be trying to fix problems that aren't yours to fix.
Yep. But
But
they're all mine. Don't you know, Sarah? They're all my
it's
problems to
like, stop
solve.
it. They're all mine. But that's a different that's a different thing to
Yeah.
be, right? And often teachers are problem solvers and it looks like control.
Yeah. Yep.
And anxiety, like control is an outcome of anxiety, I think,
Yeah.
in so many ways.
Oh,
So
it's so
fun.
good. It's
So
so
fun.
fun.
Um,
I just dealt with this with my husband the other day because again, I'm a problem solver. I can handle the weight of the world. Just put it on me and it's going to
yes.
be fine. It's going to be fine. And so I am very much the person who is like, I'm not going to complain about stuff because I know it's just feelings. Like, come on, I know better. But I got to a point, I think it was last week, and I was feeling so much anxiety. And I don't like, I'm not an anxious person. I'm such like a laid back, go with the flow type person. And it's like, the chest tightening
Yes.
and all of that. And I was just carrying it. And I was like, nobody else, this is how my brain works. I'm like, nobody else needs to carry this with me because it's not real. Okay. It's not real. But then I finally got to the point where because Dan and I, we have our businesses, we work from home, we homeschool and all of that. And I walked by him and he's sitting there working. And I look at him and I go, hey, I'm super anxious today. And he's like, oh, yeah? Like, where? Uh, what
Oh,
is that? And then he had the audacity to make me break down what was making me anxious.
which probably really helped.
It did, darn it.
I hate that when somebody asks a question and you're like, no, 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 I was just going to tell you.
I
I
was
was
just
just
going to
telling
tell
you I
you.
was anxious and I didn't need you to. Now I'm
But
not.
then that helps me build trust that it
Yeah.
is okay and it is safe, that I'm not going to bring other people down if I need to share or just process or whatever. And when I unpacked it, it was like a lot of little things
Yep.
that not any big things, not and honestly not really even anything bad. It's just like when you're wearing all the hats and you have to
Well, it
keep
was like the pile up,
there.
right? It's the
It was
pile.
100% the pile up. And honestly, just talking through the pile up
Yep.
was so helpful. And also having a partner who's like, "Oh, cool. I didn't even know you were thinking about that. Let me take care of it." And I'm like, "What?"
Well, and the other thing I think is I am much like you where I'm like, I'll just figure it out. I got it. It's
Yeah.
good. I'm fine.
Yes. Yes.
But then I forget that like, if I don't keep it a secret, other people can help with it.
Hmm.
And that is lovely and also not how I work generally.
Yeah. Yep.
And I work on that. Like I work
Hmm.
on like I say this thing out loud
Yeah.
and then other people are like, "Oh, cool, I can help with that." And you're like,
Hmm.
"Huh,
Oh.
wild."
And you know what? I
Wild.
think that really is when I look at myself in the mirror and when I look at the results of when I do step out in that trust of other people, it's honestly entirely selfish of me
Mm-hmm.
to deny other people the ability to rise and support me
Yep.
or to be a part of a situation that in with all good intentions. Because do I think I can do it better than everybody else? No. Do I think that I have some magic power that's going to get it all done? No. But I would just rather carry the weight than put it on anybody else. That's
Yeah.
just the way I am. But when I'm doing that, I'm so entirely selfish because other people are just as much, if not more capable than me in a lot of things that I try to carry myself. So it's a journey of learning to trust that it's okay for other people to bear
Yes.
the weight of whatever
Well,
it
in that
is.
people, like the thing I tell clients all the time when they're like, well, but I don't know who I would start talking to about this business.
Mm,
Like, well, you would start with people you know because they love you and they want to help. And they'll be like, no. Like,
yeah.
actually, they do. The
Yeah.
more they love you, the more they're going to want to help. And not everybody will get it, but they'll still want to help. I have plenty of people that don't get what I do and still send clients.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the way it works. So, my friend, tell me what you think, what you want people to do today or walk away with thinking about that is related to trust that you think makes a difference right now for them.
I think it is that developing your unshakable identity
Mm,
and that there's a lot of things that might change about your identity, but who you are as a core,
mhm.
who you are just being in existence doesn't change. And we might grow and evolve, but knowing deep down inside that our work isn't tied to our worth, I think is the biggest thing that I would want people to really be able to lean into that trust of the work that I'm doing, whether it's in your business or in your community, in your family, that work has literally nothing to do with your worth. And when you can really step into that, it removes so many of our own barriers that we set up for ourselves.
I was talking to somebody about the other day as like in coaching, one of the things I have to be really careful about is like absorbing other people's things.
Yeah.
And you also, but there is this place of, I think of it as interested and detached.
Mm.
Like I'm in and I'm interested and I'm curious and I'm involved, but I'm not like gecko stuck to it,
Yep.
right? Like it is, and it is something to work on. Like I can be interested and involved and engaged and also not like swimming in that. And I think if we could do that with our own work and our own self, that really helps. Like I can be really interested in it and not attached to what other people value it as.
Yeah.
And that's hard. And again, not what we're socially constructed to do.
Right.
Tell people what they should come get from you right now.
Ooh, come get the sold out offer system. It's at standfortheend.com/sold out. It's a bundle of a really awesome masterclass and a very actionable workbook to help you take what you're doing in your business or even in your career, if you haven't started a business yet, and how to distill that down into an offer that's going to sell on repeat. So,
Mm.
how do you break that down? How do you create an offer people actually want and will actually buy?
Yeah.
So it's really good. It's free right now. It's not going to be free for very much longer. So I would head over there, standfortheend.com/sold out.
Angela, I am so happy to have had you today. Thank
Ah,
you
same.
a billion times over for coming to play with us.
Yes.
And friends, you will find all the links to Angela in all the places in the little podcast description box. You know where to find me. You can come join the Facebook group, which is Uncomplicating Business for Teachers, Helpers, and Givers. You can come talk about coaching. You can come talk about selling for weirdos. Hello, because selling is the thing that we all need. And you can, both of us are people that like people. So you can be like, hi, friend that likes people. Angela is playing on LinkedIn right now. I have seen evidence of it. You should go find her on LinkedIn because she'd like
Mm.
that. And come visit us. We will
Yeah.
see you again in a couple of weeks for, I think, practices and trust and hopefully soon journaling. We'll talk to you then.